feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. Got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, very proudly presented by Motley Rice, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. A shade after noon on this Friday afternoon, of course. JB and Darren here till 2 o'clock, the second hour of our program, the Big Gamecock Preview Show. That, of course, also very proudly presented by Motley Rice, motleyrice.com. Causes, not just cases. You can find us at jbandgoldwatershow.com, and you can also find us on the JB and Goldwater app. And also on that app, you can follow along with your favorite high school football team. And tonight, Friday Night Lights are in action. Raphael Esparza is going to join us at 12:30. JC Shurburtt a little bit after 1. Michael Flint a little bit after 1:30. So it's a full day, certainly, around here. You can follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines, text lines, and phone lines are all open. 843-321-8893 if you want to send us a message on those, or if you'd like to comment like Walter and Mac and Dino and Craig and Clinton and everybody, the whole gang's here. If you'd like to comment like they're doing, any platform out there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, we'll pop you right in and make you a part of our program. Obviously, a big-time football weekend, and that's pretty much what we'll be doing around here today, both the NFL and college football, and, though, high school football tonight. Darren's going to call a game. We'll tell you about that here in a minute. But we will mix in some Braves action as well, so a little bit of baseball to get to. But, Darren, before we get to our 2-minute drill, you're right, Craig. We have made it. It is Friday. But most importantly, it's 20 years since 9/11. And tomorrow we'll wake up and we'll all remember exactly where we were and exactly what we were doing. If you're watching our program, what you're seeing on the screen there is a photo of Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville, Mississippi. That was the first college football game after 9/11. It was played on September the 20th, and that was between the Gamecocks and Mississippi State. Carolina did win the game that day by a couple of points. But, Darren, I always, when I was growing up and when you were growing up, right, our generation, we always heard our parents say things like, I remember exactly where I was when Kennedy was shot. I remember exactly where I was when this happened and that happened. And, you never really understood it until we became, adults, and we look back and remember the moment that we found out about 9/11. I remember exactly what I was doing. I was a sophomore in high school. I just walked into Spanish class and the TV was on, and it was like nobody knew what was going on. So, our thoughts and prayers are with all those families still. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, but somehow it's been 20 years.
I was a junior in college. I mean, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Penn State actually put a picture out of the American flag draped over Old Main, which is the center building. It is basically the exact center of the state of Pennsylvania and used to be the center of campus for Penn State. And they put a massive American flag draped over it. And got the chills because I remember walking by Old Main on that day. I remember when it happened. I remember being in my apartment watching it. I remember having friends call me crying that they were scared. I remember one of my closest friends at the time, a girl named Sarit, she was dating a Marine and panicking. And I remember walking to class because we still didn't know, and having, Word documents taped to the doors, class is canceled today, and then going back to the apartment and just kind of being with friends and trying to figure out to the best of your ability what exactly was going on. And keep in mind, at Penn State and where I grew up and my family, I've spent a lot of my life in New York, and a lot of people at Penn State are from New York. My closest friends are from New York. So it was, never forget. It's a day I'll never forget. And it's a day that I hope the younger generations behind us will learn to never forget. And I guess that's our job.
Absolutely. Very similar to how, we had to learn about so many other events that happened before us, dating back to World War II and things like that. I mean, there are so many moments in time where it seems like the world has stopped with this country and obviously across the globe. But ours certainly stopped that day. It was, I think back about it, just every moment. I remember being scared when I went home, which, like you said, didn't know what was going on. And it was amazing. And Tyler, you're right. There's that photo again, as we kind of lump sports into this conversation. That was the first college football game. And that was South Carolina, Mississippi State. And Tyler, you're right there, man. The memorial in New York is a great tribute. I was there. So my wife and I got engaged in New York City in 2016, right around Christmas time. It was about a week and a half before Christmas. And while we were there with my cousins, Robbie and Kelly, we went over and saw the memorial. And that's a place, like, you've been there, Darren. You don't talk in there. And it's not that there's a rule that says you can't talk. You don't. There's nothing to say. I mean, they have, if anybody's never been, they have playing in the background cell phone calls and voicemails and 911 calls and just these sounds that, I mean, you literally, you cry. I mean, I was crying. I had tears in my eyes, and, you had to walk away from some of that stuff, listening to these people in their final moments, or, thinking they're in their final moments, and most of them were. It's powerful, and it reminds you how great this country is, because there are people that have tried to tear it down. And although we lost thousands of lives that day, they were not successful in doing that. So, yeah, our thoughts and prayers are with them. It doesn't seem like it's been 20 years. It just doesn't.
It's strange, because I hear that a lot, and you hear that a lot about various times in history. It doesn't feel like 5 years. It doesn't feel like 20 years. To me, it does feel like it's been a bit of time. It doesn't feel like yesterday to me. It feels like a memory. It does not feel like something that just happened yesterday to me. Maybe because there's been a lot that's happened since and within 20 years. I mean, the memory is as vivid as it was then, but it doesn't feel like it was yesterday. I don't know a better way to put that, but to me, it does feel like something that shaped the way we move forward, but is not something that is right there in the back of your mind, like the forefront of the back of your mind. Not to me. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. It's crazy. Craig just said, I was on the top floor of the World Trade Center windows of the world August 11th, a month to the day before the attacks. My wife was 5 months pregnant. That's incredible. And I read an article this morning. So Josh Needleman, who used to cover Clemson for the Post and Courier, retweeted this. I can't remember exactly where it is. If you're on Twitter, go to Josh Needleman's page. He retweeted it. There's a guy named Glenn who, Craig, when you were there, he was running that place, Windows of the World. And this story is about him and how he lost 79 people that day. It is a goosebumpy story. And it was actually written, I believe, by his I think his nephew wrote this. And I'll have to try to find that and tweet it back out as well. But Josh Needleman has it on Twitter about the guy, Glenn, I forget his last name, but he ran Windows of the World. He was the general manager there. And it's just unbelievable. So, yep, it is a football weekend. We're fired up about that. But at the same time, I think all of us will wake up tomorrow morning and in that 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour, we'll certainly be thinking back 20 years ago, remembering that moment in time. And certainly, hopefully tomorrow, we're all enjoying our Saturday morning, September 11th, much better than we did September 11th in 2001. 2-minute drill starts Fridays off. We're a little late getting to it, but nonetheless, we will. Last night, the Bucs, on a kick from Ryan Suckup with 2 seconds left on the clock, Tampa off to a 1-0 start this year over the Dallas Cowboys. The NFL continues this weekend. We're actually going to pick 3 NFL games coming up here in just a little bit. The NFL is underway. Coastal Carolina and Kansas played tonight. If you're fired up to watch that one, 17th ranked Coastal Carolina, 26.5-point favorites. The Big 12's Jayhawks, 7:30 on ESPN2. Darren's going to be back on TV tonight. He is every Friday night. MyTV Charleston, Philip Simmons, and Bishop England in high school football. If you're in the Low Country and you care to check that out, you should definitely do so. The notable ranked games this weekend in college football start on Fox at noon tomorrow. From Ohio Stadium in Columbus, the Horseshoe and the Buckeyes will welcome 12th ranked Oregon. Ohio State over 2 touchdown favorites in that ball game. But the big one will take place in Ames, Iowa State and Iowa, a top 10 matchup, first ranked matchup ever between these two rivals. Unbelievable. Josh Pate dished that stat on our show yesterday, 4:30 on ABC from Jack Trice Stadium. A couple of other notables nationally speaking to keep an eye on. How about Sark in Texas are going to walk into Fayetteville at 7 o'clock tomorrow night? Can they get it done? We're certainly going to find out. And the Holy War late on ESPN tomorrow night. Utah and BYU both are 1-0. Utah is a touchdown favorite on the road against BYU, who is basically a new team in the Big 12. The Braves, Jock Peterson walked it off last night. They are 3.5 up in the East, and that is your 2-minute drill to lead off this Friday afternoon. Again, if you'd like to chime in on the Share Healthcare chat lines, do it. Clint, Craig, so many of you already have been giving us your comments and your memories of 9/11 and whatever you've got on football. Certainly send it our way. We'll get to our weekend selections here starting in just a little bit, but as we did last week, we'll sprinkle them throughout the show. Raphael Esparza is going to join us at 12:30 with MyBookie.ag, and we're going to look intently at a lot of betting lines. Darren, I think I have about 21 of them to get through with Raphael Esparza. We'll also pick the Charleston Southern Citadel game today, but we'll hold that one until Michael Flint joins us later on in the program. But the news of the day to lead off with college football is the Big 12, and it is official that they have extended 4 invitations, and that means BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati will be joining the league sometime in the future. I did see a release from BYU that anticipates them in the conference in 2023, which would mean probably those other 3 teams as well, or those other 3 programs as well, Darren, which also means only 1 more year until that move is made. If that's true, does that mean that Oklahoma and Texas will be joining the SEC in 2023? No news necessarily yet on that. But today was the day expected to get this information, and this morning we got it.
We talked about it yesterday. One of 2 things will happen. Either the moves are at the same time with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC and these 4 schools jumping to the Big 12. Either it happens at the exact same time or Texas, Oklahoma go, and then these other come in. Texas and Oklahoma aren't going to be there, and the Big 12 have 14 teams for a little while. Then Texas, Oklahoma leaves. There are ways to shorten these windows of the time frame you have to give in order to allow your team to leave a conference, these bylaws. I would expect these things to happen sooner than later. It's the same conversation we had surrounding Texas and Oklahoma. There are hurt feelings, significant hurt feelings. You don't want these guys hanging around too long. You don't want this storyline permeating into all of your television broadcasts and your radio broadcasts and the national coverage.
Agreed.
These things will happen sooner than later. Whether it's next year or not, I think 23 is likely, if not 22.
Yeah, I agree. And, we kind of touched on this yesterday, and as the weeks come on and we get more information, we'll continue to touch on this topic. But I think these are all really good selections by the Big 12. I think that BYU is probably going to be ready to step right in and compete from a football standpoint. I think that Cincinnati certainly will be as well. And I think that UCF absolutely will be. And I think Houston is probably fourth in that list, but it won't take them long being down there in the state of Texas. I certainly think that it's going to help them. Other sports, so are included in this as well. And the league just got better. BYU's got a great basketball program.
Well, their other programs are staying. The other programs are going to stay in the West Coast Conference, but Houston has a hell of a basketball program.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Houston has a great basketball program, and Cincinnati has great basketball tradition. Was what I was getting to. UCF is outside of Taco Fall. They've had a couple of good years, and certainly have some intrigue there. And I think that as time goes on, they will develop. To your point with BYU, is this a football only move for them? Is it true though? And I just saw this on Twitter yesterday, maybe, or the day before. Is it true though that there will be more of an emphasis on BYU attempting to schedule Big 12 teams?
It wouldn't surprise me. Like a relationship similar to how Notre Dame is with the ACC, but Notre Dame isn't technically part of the ACC for football, whereas BYU will be for the Big 12. So I would think so. They'd prefer that. It would make sense. But we'll see.
Yeah.
They hold a lot of their own cards, which is the advantage that BYU has.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Baseball, I think this league is certainly going to really suffer in losing Texas and Oklahoma. But Houston and Cincinnati and UCF are respectable programs, so we'll see where that goes. But overall, we all know what drives this. It's football and it's football money. And I think as time goes on, this is going to be a pretty good move for the Big 12. There's now speculation about who will replace these teams in the AAC. Would it be a good move for App State to jump to the AAC? Is that a better league for them than it is in the Sun Belt? I don't know the financials. Is that something that a Coastal Carolina or a Louisiana Lafayette, some of these respectable programs we're seeing now in football in the Sun Belt, would they be interested? I would probably venture a guess they're at least exploring those options, Darren. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see what that move looks like as well.
They'll explore the options. Something the Southern Conference did when they survived, I don't know what round of realignment, when Appalachian State left and Georgia Southern left, and it was, like the SoCon's in big trouble because all your football powers are gone. They had a mindset of let's strengthen our program basketball-wise. Let's strengthen our league basketball-wise. And they became a much, much better basketball league. Is that going to be profitable for them? Not to the extent of a football thing, but as I take that to a next level here, the American's going to lose some money likely when ESPN comes to them and says, listen, your contract is not valued as it used to be. The American could be very wise to take a very similar route there because they now have Memphis as a flag-bearing program. You've got some basketball programs in there. So as I say that, if you expand, is Appalachian State the right choice? Is Coastal the right choice? So I don't know what they're going to do. What they won't do is what Mike Arisco continues to say is, we're a Power 6 conference. You're not invited to the party. However you restructure, you're not invited to this new big party. That's not going to happen. You're not dead. You are what you used to be. You're just going to make a little bit less money.
Yeah, I get it. He's trying to sell it as much as he can. He's got a job to do, and And I certainly understand that, but no, I'm sorry. You're not a power six. There is no power six, at least in football. There's not.
No.
You can argue that in other sports if you'd like, but not in football. And with the loss of Cincinnati, and certainly right now with the loss of Cincinnati and where they stand in the sport, you're definitely not. And I can prove it even more. UCF and Cincinnati have been really darn good over the last few years, and they've been on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not a Power Six league. It's not the way it works. We'll see how they try to restructure this. I'll be interested to see if there's a league out there, maybe starting with the AAC, that opts to instead just invite a few more members to fill out the conference. If they opt to try to, mesh a couple of conferences together.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, so at the Power 5 level, the less number of members that you have, and obviously the more money you make, the higher the cut for each athletic department. And so that's why, like you've pointed out before, the Big 12 maybe would not have wanted to merge with the Pac-12, because then you're talking about 20 members having to all split the same amount of money.
And you're bringing down when you bring in a whole bunch of teams, if their individual value isn't great, then overall what they're doing is devaluing the league, and then devaluing the individual cuts.
Right. And that's at the Power 5 level. I'd be interested to see a study that would be able to lump like the AAC and, I don't know, pick a league, the Sun Belt or somebody like that. Even though there would be more members, would it actually be more profitable? I get it, there'd be more cuts to go around, but would there be another way that they can actually make more money by merging, as opposed to how the Power 5 has to structure some of their television deals? I don't know what that answer is. I'm not going to even try to attempt to answer it, and I'm not going to try to act like I know what the answer is. But I'm sure that option is being explored out there in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's just a different conversation, because instead of
yes, totally
right, because it's not like, hey, can we keep up with the SEC? Can we keep up with the Big Ten and the Alliance? And the Big 12 isn't going to do that. They're in the party, but they sag behind. They will not be on that level, or really even close to it, even with these additions. But they've survived. So then once you drop back to the Group of 5 level, it's a totally different conversation, and how they want to survive really moving forward. I mean, yeah, money's going to be an issue. What's really happening is the gap is getting bigger. I mean, both these moves that have happened, if you want to call the Alliance the third move, whatever, everything that's going on is just widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots, because the money is going one way and the Group of 5 is sagging back the other.
Yeah. It's certainly going like this, not like that. There's no doubt about that. Motley Rice fights every day for Americans injured while traveling on a plane or a bus, or who've been harmed by medical drugs and devices burdened by auto recalls like those Takata airbags and more. Headquartered right here in the state of South Carolina, in the Low Country, in beautiful Mount Pleasant, on the banks of Charleston Harbor. MotleyRice.com. MotleyRice.com is where you want to go if you have been impacted, you think you may have been impacted, or you know somebody who's been impacted. MotleyRice.com for more information. Again, right here in the Low Country. And we certainly thank them for their contribution to the JB and Goldwater show. And coming up at 1 o'clock, once again, the Big Gamecock Preview Show, which we'll have every Friday throughout football season. I see Daniel's tweet here. At JB and Goldwater, will the fans turn on Coach Beamer after his first loss this weekend? Regardless, the biggest loser on this trip to Greenville, North Carolina will be mustard-based barbecue. So full disclosure, I've known Daniel Brock a long time. He clearly outkicked his coverage with his beautiful wife, Whitney, whom I grew up with. They met at East Carolina, and they got two great kids. And he's tongue-in-cheeking that one with me, I think, with Coach Beamer. No, they will not turn on him at all. And you're right. The biggest loser on this trip will be mustard-based barbecue, because all the losers up there in Greenville, North Carolina, eat vinegar-based barbecue. Down here, we eat real barbecue, which is mustard-based barbecue. But we're going to pick that game later, Daniel. So send us your prediction. I think from what I hear, he went up last weekend to watch ECU get their rear ends kicked by App State and Charlotte. So for his health, I hope it happens again.
For his health or for your health? You hope it happens again.
I'll be fine. The one thing that ECU fans and Gamecock fans have in common is they've lost a lot. But somebody's going to have to win this weekend. Somebody's going to have to win the game. All right, we do have Raphael Esparza coming up at about 12:30, and we got a lot of picks, so we're going to get him and roll right through it until we get to the Big Gamecock Preview Show with JC Shurburtt and Michael Flint coming up at 1 o'clock. 14-5 last week. I was Darren 13-6. We do have some picks we need to kind of throw in here at the end of this segment, Darren. So let's do that. We've also welcomed back the NFL. So we'll mix in a couple of NFL selections every week. We'll start with those, and we'll start with your favorite group, the Washington former Redskins football team. 1 o'clock, CBS, Los Angeles. Who wins?
The Washington football team is going to win. I'm disappointed that it looks like the football team moniker is going away. It's still in the running officially, but it looks like that football team moniker is going away. I am driving the Keep WFT bus because it's unique and it's cool and the uniforms look good. But better than that, they're going to beat the Chargers.
You know what? I agree with you. They're going to beat the Chargers. This will probably be the only. They'll be 1-16, but they're going to get one here in the first week. I'm just kidding, Darren.
A lot of people have them winning the East. We'll see.
Oh, I think they're going to be pretty good. 17 games. I'll go ahead. I'll tell you what. 10-7. They win the East at 10-7.
I'll take it.
It's my preseason prediction.
I'll take it.
Can't trust them, but I'll give you that. All right, if we'd have had this conversation a few months ago, it would have been a couple of former Clemson quarterbacks maybe going up against each other, Jacksonville and Houston, but only one of them is going to play in this game. The other one, I don't know when we'll see him play again. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville on the road. Houston's got major problems. Jacksonville's 3-point favorites. Who you got?
Jacksonville's 3-point favorites with a rookie quarterback, a head coach who's getting torn apart for not really understanding how to get things accomplished in the NFL. And yet they're 3-point favorites. That shows you just how much of a dumpster fire Houston is. Part of me wants to pick Houston because the NFL is weird and I don't trust a rookie quarterback. And I just convinced myself to do that. I'm going to take the Texans. Even though I circled Jacksonville down here, I'm switching.
Nah, Jacksonville wins. Urban Meyer, 1-0 in his debut in the NFL. Also, a couple of former Bama quarterbacks will see each other in New England. Good thing it's September. It won't be cold. They're not used to all that cold. You know, Tua down there at Miami. Mac played in Tuscaloosa, but he better get used to it quickly because it's going to be chilly before long in the Northeast. Who wins? Is it the rookie or is it the kind of rookie because he hadn't played a whole lot in Tua?
The rookie, the Patriots rookie. New England wins this game, and the second coming of Tom Brady is born in the regular season.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you. I just like what surrounds Mac more up there at New England, so I'm going with the Patriots here. All right, a few college football picks. We're going to slide these in, and then we're going to slide to a break and get Raphael to tell us all about the betting lines this weekend. Kansas and Coastal tonight at 7:30 on ESPN2. Coastal, they're huge favorites in the game, and I'll lead this off pretty quickly. They're not going to lose, Darren.
No, they're not going to lose. The question is, are they going to cover 26 or 27 or whatever the line's going to be by the time kickoff comes? Are they going to cover it? Because they're going to pound them. They're going to win.
Absolutely. They win. So far, we agree on everything. Illinois and Virginia tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. This one is on the ACC network. Illinois lost to UTEP last week. Yikes, 37-30. Or UTSA. Who cares? Doesn't matter. They lost the game by a touchdown. But was that kind of we're peeking ahead to an ACC foe? I don't know. Do you really peek ahead to Virginia? This is a 10.5-point spread in favor of the Wahoos. I do think Illinois will play better this week, but Virginia wins.
They better play better. It tells you how many issues Nebraska has that Illinois won that game comfortably. Virginia wins this game and wins it comfortably. It'll be in that. I like the line. I'm not going to touch it. It'll be in that 10-point range.
Talk about comfort. I don't care who's at quarterback. Florida will blow out South Florida at 1 o'clock tomorrow on ABC. This sucks for Jeff Scott because the whole country gets to watch it, and it's going to be a disaster if Florida wins.
Yeah, and expect to see a couple more highlight plays from Richardson and even though blowout, the quarterback controversy to ramp up in Gainesville. The blowout will help that happen because he'll get a little bit more early playing time.
Yeah, good point. Great point. South Carolina State, they're going to make the trek up to Clemson. It's the home opener for the Tigers. It's going to be a rough day, certainly for the Bulldogs, but props to them for playing the game 5 o'clock on the ACC network. Clemson gets their first win of the year.
Yeah, Bulldogs take that check, try and be healthy, get on back home.
And finally, this one was much more interesting before last week happened. Washington, what happened? They've got to go to the Big House this weekend and take on Michigan. I love the matchup. I'm glad they scheduled the game, but Washington will not show up in Lansing and pull an upset. 8 o'clock tomorrow night on ABC. Michigan wins, and Michigan wins by over a touchdown.
Interesting. I think Michigan wins. I think it's a very close game. I think whatever happened to Wisconsin last week is one of those aberrations. I mean, you don't see an FCS team beat a ranked team, even in week 1, coming off COVID year, not knowing everything about the team. That should not happen. Expect them to play a lot better. Wouldn't surprise me if they pull the upset. The Big Ten can't afford that, so I'm going to say Michigan.
Michigan wins. You and I agree on everything. We'll also agree on taking this break, and when we return, Raphael Esparza with MyBookie.ag. He'll tell us all about the betting lines this weekend, where you should and shouldn't lay some cash, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And 2 others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations: Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. If it costs me my very last dime. If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing in time. I'm gonna
12:35 Friday afternoon. Welcome back, the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice. If you've got a question that pertains to where you should or shouldn't lay your dough this weekend, pop it into the Share Healthcare chat room or on the text lines, 843-321-8893, and let us ask Raphael for you. I won't answer it. Darren won't answer it. We don't want to be blamed for that. You can blame the guy from Vegas. Speaking of which, it is so good to see you again. How are you, bud?
I am doing well. I mean, circumstances have been improving, but I'm smiling because, boy, did the SEC and ACC tank last week, and they're supposed to be a creme of the creme of football. So this is a great day for me.
How's the hurricane cleanup?
Long and tedious, but hey, I got Wi-Fi.
All right. Well, you look great. You're thin and healthy and the whole 9 yards. So good for you.
Woke up today. That's all I can ask.
There you go.
That's right.
Everyone keeps saying, "How's your health?" I have no idea how the health is. I'm dealing with other stuff. Took that in the back burner.
We'll worry about that later. Yeah. It's football season. We'll get to it. We'll get to it in February. All right, MyBookie.ag, 50% sign-up bonus up to your first $1,000. If you've never done it before, let me tell you how this goes. It's pretty simple. Put in $100, they give you $50. You put in $200, they give you $100. Simple math for most of us, unless you went to Ole Miss or Auburn. But none of us did. All right, so we have a lot of games to get to with you here, but I do want to start in the NFL. I actually want to get your thoughts on last night's game. Brady is 67 years old, and he looks 30. And Dak Prescott had a good night. And of course, it was a Gamecock. They had to win it for everybody. The kick there at the end, Ryan Suckup. But I want to get your thoughts, man. Tom Brady, 44 years old. Are the Bucs going to win another Super Bowl?
If they play defense like they did, no. I mean, let's face it. Everyone wants to talk about Dak and Tom. How about we talk about the defense that played horrendously bad? How many times can you get faked out by the play-action pass or the fake handoff in the middle of the screen as well? I could have caught a pass in the middle of the 50-yard line and got a first down. So it's just horrible defense. So, great numbers on offense, but can we at least give the defense some finger pointing because it looked like Big 12 defense yesterday.
Yeah, it didn't look good, but it was week one. Everybody has problems with week one, right? No?
Well, but if the defense ruled yesterday, everyone would be like, oh, is Tom Brady old? Does he need to hang it up? Does Dak Prescott need to sit down because he's not 100% healthy? So, no, finger point at defense where finger point needs to be.
Okay. All right. Can we talk about other games in the NFL now? Cool?
I guess if you want to sugarcoat or not talk about SEC and ACC football, we could talk about the NFL first. I mean, I know that's what you're hiding, so
don't worry. We're going to get to the SEC and the ACC. But I do have a couple of games we want to throw at you in the NFL. Before I get to those, though, which one have you circled? Where can somebody throw some money and they feel pretty good about it on this week's slate?
In the NFL, I'm a little bit torn on why the Packers-Saints game has changed. I was up late at night the other night, almost till 3 a.m, doing Donald Trump boxing commentary prop bets. And my phone is binging, and I look down, and all this money's coming in on the Saints, and I have no idea why. They're not playing at home. They're playing in Jacksonville. They probably had one of the world's worst summers in spring practices that you can remember. They lost their kicker, free agencies. No one knew who the quarterback was until a couple of weeks ago. And now they're playing the Green Bay Packers, who, let's face it, this is the last dance. It's Super Bowl or bust for them. I don't understand why it's 3.5. I think this number continues to come down. So if I can get Green Bay -3, I'm doing backflips because I don't think this NFC South division's any good. And I still hope a hiding hole that Carolina is going to make it to the playoffs.
All right. Well, speaking of Carolina, they're 4.5-point favorites against the Jets on Sunday. How do you see that?
Do you like that leeway just because it's a Sam Darnold Bowl? It's not the Jets versus Carolina. It's a Sam Darnold Bowl. And I'm high on Carolina, so I like Carolina in this game. I'm not 100% sold on the Jets. I just think year two of a brand new coaching staff for Carolina. They're sophomore. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. Their defense is going to be much better. And I think Sam Darnold wants to prove that, hey, I stunk because I played for the Jets. I didn't stink because I stink. I think Carolina and McCaffrey's going to have a huge game if he stays healthy. Give me Carolina at home.
More South Carolinians are now pulling for the Panthers because of what Matt Rule said, which was they represent both Carolinas. So good for him. All right, yeah, awesome. All right, now how about the Chargers and the former Redskins Washington football team? Don't know what her name is. They're 1-point favorites at home. Darren's got his fingers crossed. You're going to say something good here.
Defense. Washington.
All right, Darren, start drinking. Nothing else to be said.
Defense wins. There's a reason why this total is 44.5. We're not going to see that much scoring in this one. And I'm sorry, that Washington defense could be up there as the top 3 defense in the league when all said and done.
Agreed. They are very good, aren't they, Darren, on that side of the football?
They should be. We'll see.
2 words, 3 times. Defense, Washington. All right, how about the former Clemson quarterback bowl without one of the quarterbacks? Jacksonville and Houston. The Jaguars are 3-point favorites on the road.
There's one good thing why I like the NFL puts a whole bunch of games on the same time slot because you don't have to watch all these games. Will I watch this game? No, I'm not going to watch Jacksonville and Houston. No, I might read the box score maybe at 5 o'clock when I'm eating dinner when the wife's telling me how her day was. I would not watch this one down on this one. If I had to pick it, give me the plus points on Houston.
Okay. And finally, we're going to ask you about the Alabama Bowl. Rookie Mac Jones against the break your heart Darius Rucker Dolphins. Does Tua Tagovailoa break Darius Rucker's heart? The Dolphins are 3-point dogs in New England.
Who was my Super Bowl pick, guys?
I have no idea.
Patriots.
Yeah, someone listens to the show, listens to my interview. It's mac and cheese. It's New England. They saw Tom Brady win yesterday. Mac and cheese win, cover, and they still win the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me write all this down, Darren. I got to make some money this weekend. So New England picked them to win the Super Bowl and also picked them to cover this weekend against Miami.
That is correct.
You know, something that MyBookie did yesterday, 2 days ago. I think I jumped on it 2 days ago. This is another reason to sign up, because if you play a decent amount, you know, anything within your comfort zone, every now and then they give you ways to make free money. Like they had a lock of the season, which was, will either team score in the Cowboys Bucs game? Yes, and there was not a no option. You can only win up to $25 because they don't want to go bankrupt on one thing. But that was a nice little way to boost the account.
I agree. It's even though I couldn't play it, but yeah, my twin brother jumped on that. I'm sure all his Home Depot buddies jumped on that as too. I mean, give free money out for the football season. I'm sure someone's probably gonna blow it on 5-team parlays on Saturday and Sunday. So
yeah, I could blow it tonight, but I'm saying I enjoy having it. I appreciate it.
Easy enough. $25.
Yeah.
There's also another promotion going on right now with MyBookie where you can double your money. As you go to the website, MyBookie.ag is right there on the front. I mean, they got so many ways for you to make money, spend money. You kind of get the
ignore the loved ones.
Yeah, that's right. All right, into college football we go. We know who's going to win this game, Raphael. We're asking you about the line on the game. Coastal Carolina, you know, they play up there in Conway, South Carolina, and they're going to welcome Kansas to town tonight. Coastal has whipped them the last couple of times they've played them. They're 26.5-point favorites tonight. The over-under is at 52, 7:30 kickoff on ESPN2 from Brooks Stadium. Do they cover that 26.5?
I think they do. We're probably going to be big Kansas fans when this game kicks off because I think everyone knows how Kansas plays football. And everyone still remembers what Coastal Carolina did last year. So I can guarantee you would be Jayhawk fans when this game kicks off. I think they cover this stuff. I also like the over. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored in this one.
Okay. How about Illinois and Virginia tomorrow morning at 11 on the ACC network? Illinois had a pretty bad loss last week against UTSA, I think 37-30 or something like that. They're 10.5-point dogs at Virginia. Something my hunch tells me they're actually going to play a little bit better this weekend in Charlottesville. What does yours tell you?
Yeah, I agree. I think this number is just a little bit of overreaction to last week's game. I'll take the plus points on this one. Make sure you shop around. There's some good numbers. There's a couple of 11s out there if you shop around, but I'll take Illinois plus the points.
All right, one of the two, I think, ranked versus ranked games tomorrow is Oregon and Ohio State at noon on Fox. The Ducks are 14.5-point dogs in the Horseshoe against the Buckeyes, who won their first game over Minnesota by 14, and by virtue of playing that game on Thursday night, they now have 9 days rest to play this one.
Let's face it, we all know Ohio State's going to win this one just because of the injuries of what Oregon has on defense, but I'm going to complain on the time slot. This is why I don't like Big Ten football. Why is this game at a noon kickoff Eastern Standard Time? This could be a 2:30 game, a 3:30 evening game. Why is this matchup a 12 o'clock kickoff time? I don't care if you're playing at Ohio State. It's all about TV. It's all about pleasing the fans. I do not like the time slot. I'm hoping with the new add-ons at the Big Ten, Pac-12, and all those other doing that they'll fix the time slot. But no way this matchup should be a noon kickoff. I don't even have 2 cups of coffee in my system yet, and this game's going to be kicking off.
I agree. I don't – what's the – I have it somewhere in here.
I'll say I have the over in this one. 56.5. I've got the over in that.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this one.
You have the over at 56.5, Darren?
In the Ohio State-Oregon game, yeah.
It's showing now at MyBookie 63.5. So you
I got it when I did.
You probably made some money.
Not yet. I haven't.
Wow, that's impressive. So
I'll double check that. I think that's what I got it at.
Okay, all right.
It might be 63.
Yeah, this shows 63.5 now. All right,
yeah, that might be where I got it.
Sticking with the noon theme, a blue-collar ACC SEC matchup tomorrow in Knoxville, Pittsburgh and Tennessee. Tennessee, the Vols, they're 3-point dogs at home against the Panthers. Raphael, the over-under in this one is 56.5.
I like Pittsburgh in this one. I think the road team wins this one. I think they cover big. I would not be shocked if they win by double digits. I'm not sold on Tennessee. This one opened up at 1, and it quickly got moved to 3.5. And we're talking some big money came in on this game, so it's not like it's just a whole bunch of public money. Pittsburgh wins easily. Here's another bad time slot, too. Come on. It was so early in the game. I'm still watching tennis and soccer.
This one's a little better, 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. I'm asking you about this because of the quarterback situation. We have picked the game already, and Darren and I know that Florida is going to whip South Florida in Tampa. But I'm asking you about it because it's a 28.5-point spread in favor of the Gators on the road in Tampa, Florida. Last week, the Florida started Emory Jones. He wasn't very good. And then the Richardson came in there, and he came in there, and he was pretty good. We know they're going to win. But do they cover the 4-touchdown and some change spread?
I think they do. So USF Bulls stink.
Yeah, they're bad.
I think they're just going to probably rush the ball all through the second half and still be able to score at least 3 touchdowns. So I think they cover, but I still think we're going to have Florida's going to have QB issues after this game.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an interesting spread here. 2 o'clock kick tomorrow. Rutgers and Syracuse. I know nobody in our area cares about the game, but you might care about making some money. 2.5-point favorites are the Scarlet Knights on the road against the Orange.
Yeah, this one's one of those ones I scratch in my head. Probably won't touch this game. I'm leaning towards the under. I think we're going to see a lot of running in this game, so it might be an under game. But, yeah, this was a head scratch. I really thought Syracuse would have been the small 1-point favorites. But, wow, all this money coming in the Scarlet Knights, it's a little fishy. I like the under.
Seems like Vegas is not really sure on Rutgers or on Syracuse because they missed badly with Syracuse, Ohio. And the Rutgers-Temple game, that line wasn't close either.
Yeah, I think there's too many question marks for both schools for me. So I think we're going to see defense, though.
Here's another interesting line I found at MyBookie.ag. A 2:30 kick tomorrow afternoon. It's at Notre Dame and Toledo. Again, Notre Dame's going to win the game. 17. And I know that sounds like a big number, but you would think Notre Dame would be larger favorites than only 17 points against the Rockets.
The Rockets can score and they can run the ball. If Notre Dame can't stop the run, and this game could be a lot interesting than what the odds makers are telling us. I kind of like the plus points at Toledo right here. And sometimes Notre Dame has trouble putting away these smaller schools, so give me the Rockets.
Love this ball game. Cannot wait to see it on the anniversary, the 20th of 9/11. Air Force and Navy will battle on CBS tomorrow at 3:30. Get out of the way, SEC on CBS. It's time for America. And Navy are 6-point dogs against the Air Force Academy. But here's the kicker. 40.5 is the over-under.
Yeah, there's not going to be that much scoring in this game. Navy struggled last week. Army is normally struggles against Navy's defense. I would not be – whoever wins this game, I think, has 17 points or less. So this one's going to be an ugly game. But don't forget about tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I think we all know where we were on that day. It's going to be hard for me to enjoy college football tomorrow and fighting on tomorrow night because I know exactly where I was. I was working in a casino called New York on that day where we had bomb threats and stuff like that. It's going to be really, really, really hard for me to enjoy tomorrow's sporting events because I know I'm probably going to watch the History Channel more than I might watch college football tomorrow morning because I never want to forget what happened that day, and I try to soak it all in, and I can guarantee you I won't watch game day tomorrow because I know I'm going to be sucked in watching something on the History Channel.
Yeah, there's been so many specials throughout the week and more tonight, obviously, commemorating the 20th anniversary. Darren just popped the photo up a moment ago of actually September the 20th, 2001. That was Mississippi State welcoming South Carolina to town, the first college football game after 9/11 had taken place, and that photo of both teams walking out holding the American flag. Yeah, 20 years.
Seems like yesterday.
That's what I said. You close your eyes. I was walking into a Spanish class in high school. It's just amazing.
Do you know any Spanish?
Hola. Hola, Jaime. That's all I remember.
I think that's more shocking than anything you said all day today is that you took Spanish.
Yeah, I had to. We had to. I barely got out of there. Ended up tailgating later on with my Spanish teacher in college. All right, Texas A&M and Colorado. My father-in-law lives in Laramie, Wyoming. He told me a few years ago before the Gamecocks went to play basketball against Wyoming, watch out. The elevation out here can bite you. So now the boys from College Station have to go way up high to Mile High to take on the Buffaloes. They are 17-point favorites, but do they cover that at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon?
I like Colorado in this one. I think A&M win by 14, so I'm going to take the plus 3.5 points that I can get with the 17.5. So, yeah, I don't think it's a big number, 17. So, give me Colorado. They'll hang around. They'll sneaking a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and everyone's mad that A&M didn't cover.
How about App State and Miami? A strange scheduling start to the year for the Hurricanes. I believe it's next week. They also have to play Michigan State. App State whipped East Carolina last week. Miami, they got a butt whipping of their own at the hands of the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are 9-point favorites at home against the Sunbelt Mountaineers. That game is on ESPNU tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I don't like this game because I want to see how Miami plays because they're not playing Alabama, and I kind of want to see how App State because they're playing a little bit better team than East Carolina, which us three can find some people and beat maybe East Carolina. So this one just has too many question marks. But if Miami wins this game and blows out, let's say App State, then how good is Alabama? Because again, if it wasn't for Alabama and SEC, the SEC is what? The Sun Belt.
You just like getting under people's skin around here, don't you?
True. Tell me something different.
Speaking of the SEC, could an upset be brewing in
McNeese State?
No.
No. State.
You know what the interesting note in that game is, though, right?
Coach O's, he's probably going to kneel down just for his dad can save his job, and LSU will win like 94-0.
All right, well, neither one of them are in this game. Texas and Arkansas in Fayetteville. The Hogs are 7-point dogs at home against Steve Sarkisian's Longhorns, second game of the year. They did beat Lafayette last week by 20. It's a 7 o'clock kick. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of drunk people, and Arkansas is certainly looking for an upset. Do they cover? Do they get it?
Here's another. I think it's going to be another close one. I'll take Arkansas plus the points. I would not be shocked. I think Texas wins 4 points or less, but it's a touchdown. I mean, both teams want to establish the run. Is Texas really back? I just like the way Arkansas, I think, will be able to control the offensive line. So I think I'm going to take the plus points.
I learned this morning from one of my favorite country music artists, Justin Moore, is a huge Hog fan. He was on with
Never heard of him.
You should listen. He's got a great song called I Could Kick Your Ass. It's one of my favorites of all time.
Did he talk about his truck?
He's talking about
Drinking
anybody that gets in his way.
Oh.
He threw out an interesting stat this morning on Peter Burns and Chris Doring's show on the SEC Network. He said Hogs and Longhorns 5-5 in their last 10 contests. Had no idea. All right. Go Hogs. How about Missouri and Kentucky? This is an interesting game. Right now, the Wildcats 5.5-point favorites at home. Whoever wins it clearly is going to have a leg up for second place in the SEC East behind Georgia.
Yeah, I like Kentucky in this one. I think they're going to play much better than they did last year. Missouri, I still think I have some issues on defense. Give me Kentucky. A lot of running in this game. I think Kentucky runs the offensive line as well.
Vanderbilt, Darren, you hinted at this. This line has shrunk a little bit. They're still 7-point favorites. An SEC, big mighty SEC team on the road against Colorado State, another place with high elevation. I don't know what happens at 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night.
Dear football gods, please let the Mountain West team beat an SEC. Give me Colorado State.
But did they cover the touchdown?
Yes, they covered a touchdown. They're going to cover and beat an SEC school.
Cover by 1,000,000. Colorado State 56-0.
Speaking of a touchdown, the Holy War on ESPN at 10:15 tomorrow night. Utah and BYU. Utah 7-point favorites on the road against the future Big 12ers.
I was going to say the Big 12 BYU Cougars. Utah wins. Utah's just, I think, just more powerful. Their defense is going to be really, really good, I think, in the Pac-12. I think they stifle BYU. I like Utah on the road and showing BYU, hey, now you have to play tough competitors in a bigger conference. Here's how it's going to look like for you guys for a while.
You love this one. Way out west, Stanford and Southern Cal. Stanford 17-point dogs in L.A.
A lot of points being scored on this one. Stanford's defense, I think, is going to be really, really bad all season long. I think USC puts up big, big, big numbers. Give me the over 53.5. This one will probably – it's a late game, and I know you two will be sleeping because you have kids and soccer practice or Little League or whatever. Stay up late because there's going to be a lot of points scored in this one.
Part of our buy or sell segment today, which is brought to you by Jeff McCarriger with Carolina One Real Estate, is will the ACC go 2-0 against the SEC this weekend? Raphael already dished on Pitt and Tennessee. NC State and Mississippi State is the other ACC-SEC matchup. And the Wolfpack in Starkville, according to MyBookie.ag, at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, are 1-point favorites. Essentially a pick-em game. So who wins?
As WCW had the red and black NWO Wolfpack. Woo! Give me the Wolfpack. NC State on the road beating Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm. All right. So 2-0 weekend is what you're predicting for the ACC versus the SEC.
Yeah, I'm just, you know me, I'm always rooting against SEC. That'd be fantastic. And McNeese State beat LSU too.
Matt Campbell looking to beat Iowa for the first time. This is also part of our buy or sell segment. Jeff.McCarriger at CarolinaOne.com. If you need real estate in the low country or if you want to sell real estate in the low country, Jeff.McCarriger at CarolinaOne.com. Right now, Iowa State, 4.5-point favorites are the Cyclones at home as they welcome the Hawkeyes. This is the first ever ranked versus ranked matchup in this series. Does Matt Campbell beat them, and do they cover if they do?
2019, Iowa went there and beat them by 1 point. Whoever wins this game is going to win by a touchdown or less. It wouldn't even be shocked if this goes to overtime. Give me the plus points, 4.5 with Iowa. It's just that these two teams just battle and battle and battle. I just don't see a team winning by a touchdown or more. I'm going to take the plus points with Iowa.
All right. And finally, Darren and I will pick all of these games later, including this one. JC Shurburtt, Michael Flint will also log a pick coming up in the Big Gamecock Preview Show in the next hour. South Carolina, this has gone from 4 to 2 to 1 to 2, and now back to 2 in favor of the Gamecocks. They're at East Carolina on ESPN2 at noon. In Greenville, the over-under is 56.5. Can Shane Beamer start his career 2-0 at South Carolina? And per our buy or sell segment, if you do pick the Gamecocks to cover, do they cover by 10 or more?
I don't think they cover by 10, but I do think they win this game and cover by the point spread of 2. I think they win by a field goal. I'm just not sold on ECU at all this year. It's going to be a very, very long season for East Carolina. Give me the Gamecocks. I think they win this game. Again, I think they win by a field goal.
Raphael Esparza on Twitter at VSI Doc Sports. He is the best in the business. MyBookie.ag is where you lay that dough, and hopefully you wake up on Sunday morning with a little extra cash in your bank account. Have a wonderful weekend, my friend. 20 years tomorrow. We'll all be thinking about the same thing, and we look forward to talking to you next Friday.
Go McNeese State. Yeah, McNeese.
They lost to a D2 last week.
Damn it.
A very, 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 very good D2, and most really good D2s will beat a lot of lower level FCS, but they did, so they're probably not going to beat LSU.
I'm hoping Alabama goes undefeated and every other SEC team only has like 3 wins.
Not South Carolina. Have a great weekend.
Take it easy, guys.
That is it. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 coming your way. The Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice, served by Whiskey Jam. Get that Blackberry Whiskey Jam for your tailgate this weekend. When we return, J.C. Shurburtt, Michael Flint, and our preview of South Carolina and East Carolina right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glades, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
To Rice, touchdown! He caught it in traffic.
Big sack for the Gamecocks. J.J. Inigbari.
Walks it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
JB and Goldwater presents the Gamecock Preview Show, proudly brought to you by Motley Rice. Our history makes us bold, our boldness makes history. And now, it's time for some Gamecock football.
Get the ball to Bennett. It's going for everything. Ellis looking for blood. Touchdown! Oh my!
This is Rodgers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rodgers scores! Back to Thomas Dindy, and Dindy spins into the open, and he's on his way. It's a tie-ball game if they can get the extra point. 20, 15, 10, 5. Scoreboard, his second of the day.
There's never been more excitement about South Carolina football than there is right now.
I've heard all the stories of the great George Rogers out back in 1980. He made the whole nation holler. And I've seen that photograph of young Steve Tannehill up in old Death Valley signing his name on the field. Yeah, and I love the year 2001 at Bill Williams Brass Rock. Oh, what else can I say? I'm just a big old car.
105 Friday afternoon. Welcome to the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice, served by Whiskey Jam, and driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. JB, Darren, and JC, round 2 this week for JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. We will take you until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Michael Flint going to join us in about 30 minutes. We'll look very closely at the matchup between the Pirates of East Carolina and the Gamecocks of South Carolina. A noon kick tomorrow from Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium in Greenville, North Carolina, on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. 9/11-21 is hoping to be win 2 of the Shane Beamer era. ESPN2 has it. Brian Kushner will call it. Kelly Stouffer will analyze it, and Lauren Sisler will be on the sidelines for this matchup. Of course, you can start to pick up coverage statewide and, for that matter, worldwide on the Gamecocks app at 9 a.m. If you are in the Midlands of South Carolina, 107.5 The Game. Of course, our friends up there will have the pregame show and take you all the way up until kick. Todd Ellis, Tommy Suggs, and Jamar Nesbitt will be on it. This one between Mike Houston and Shane Beamer, very interesting. Mike Houston has won against South Carolina at the Citadel when they beat Sean Elliott and the Gamecocks in 2015. It was the final year of Steve Spurrier, of course, before he resigned. He is 7-15 in 4 seasons, or his 4th year, I should say, up at East Carolina. Shane Beamer, he's got a 100% winning percentage with the Gamecocks. 1-0. Last week's 46-0 victory over Eastern Illinois. And as we bring JC in here, JC, first of all, welcome back. The BigSpur.com has been covering this beautifully all week, as you always do. This is, quote, the Super Bowl for East Carolina. We're going to get into some history here in just a little bit and their list of games against Power 5 programs. How many of those programs have come to Greenville, and how many of those programs the Pirates have beaten at Dowdy-Ficklen as well. So it's going to be a tough contest tomorrow, but happy Friday, my friend.
Hey, happy Friday to you. It's funny you mentioned Mike Houston. If you look at all the coaches South Carolina has to face this year, the coach that has the most losses against South Carolina is Dabo Swinney.
Wow, what a stat!
If you go through it, I hope because Vandy has a first year coach. Mark Stoops obviously 6-2 against Carolina. Jimbo Fisher's 4-0. Eli Drinkwitz and Mike Houston combined are 3-0 against South Carolina. All 3 wins at Williams-Brice. That's tough. Dan Mullen did lose to the Gamecocks when he was at Mississippi State twice. Old Dabo's got 5 losses to South Carolina in his career, and everybody else is pretty doggone stellar. Kirby Smart 4-1, some of those guys like that. But so look, give Mike Houston all the credit in the world for that win over the Gamecocks. They had a great game plan, not only offensively, running the triple option that day, which Carolina had trouble stopping. Gamecocks got a little too cute on offense. Both lines were bad that day. But it's a different type of matchup, I think, against ECU than that Citadel game. I think this is, the keys to victory are a little bit different than they were that day, that bad day in Columbia. And that was a shame, too, because, number one, I think Sean Elliott's a good coach. I think he's proven that at Georgia State. Last week's results against Army notwithstanding. But, he had that team playing a lot better in 2015. And that Citadel loss just erases, the fact that the Gamecocks played Tennessee within a field goal. Tennessee was good that year. Clemson within 5, A&M within 7. They beat Vanderbilt. Florida within 10. I mean, that Citadel loss just makes it seem, and he was 1-5, but that sort of eliminated any kind of thought of the improvement that the 2015 Gamecocks did make under his tenure. But this is a different program that ECU has compared to Citadel. They do a lot of different things offensively, defensively about the same. But I don't think people need to be living in fear of Mike Houston just because of what happened in 2015. You want to live in fear of him, live in fear of the team he's got now.
Upgrade your tailgate. Fit it all. Tables, chairs, tents, and coolers. The new Atlas at Stokes Volkswagen has third-row seating. Those seats, they come right down. Spacious, safe, leather interior, bucket seats. You want to know how I know all that? Because my wife bought one. It's in the driveway right now. Check out their inventory at stokesvw.com. Yeah, we traded in the Chevy Traverse. Bam. Atlas. She loves it. She drives all over the place. It can even fit me in there. It's absolutely wonderful. A win for the Gamecocks tomorrow. How about this, JC? Would match last year's win total, 2. Of course, both of those were in the SEC, 2-8 in a 10-game all-SEC schedule. It would give the Gamecocks back-to-back wins for the first time since last year. Those 2 wins, Auburn and Vanderbilt, October the 10th and October the 17th, respectively. But the Gamecocks, even though they can't do this tomorrow, have not won 3 in a row since the 2017 season. That was a 9-win campaign for Will Muschamp. It would also give the Gamecocks their 5th straight win and their 15th in 20 tries against the Pirates of East Carolina. It would also give Carolina back-to-back wins to open the season for the first time since that 2017 season. We mentioned those 2 wins were North Carolina State and Missouri. The Debo games, where he ran a kickback for a touchdown, and, of course, Jake Bentley's marvelous throw into the corner of the end zone against the Wolfpack up there in Charlotte. It would also, though, just be the second time since 2012 that Carolina has opened the season with 2 straight wins. That year, they opened with 6 straight wins. It would improve Carolina to 34-11 in their last 45 contests against teams outside of the SEC. And the Gamecocks would also improve to 48-4 against non-Power 5 schools since the turn of the century. You had a stat. I'm going to throw another stat at you. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
You're not going to believe. People will not believe this when I say this. Shane Beamer would be the first coach since Richard Bell in 1982. His only year as head coach in Columbia to start 2-0. He'd be the 4th. Since 1946, boys and girls, simple math will tell you it's 75 years. 4 guys have started 2-0 at Carolina. The other 2, Jim Carlin in 75, Warren Geese when JC was born in 1956. Incredible.
Warren Geese, pretty good coach, if you remember correctly. But look, man, those 2 games that Richard Bell won, Richmond and Pacific. Pacific was the leadoff, and I know Pacific beat them in 81, or I think 81, in an upset, one of those classic Gamecock upset games. And then they blew them away. Richard Bell outscored his first 2 opponents 71-16, and then it all came crashing down the next week when that juggernaut Duke, which I think had an offensive coordinator by the name of Steve Spurrier at the time, came in and beat the Gamecocks 30-17 in an upset. And then Georgia beat them, and then they beat Cincinnati, and then it all came crashing down against Furman. on October 16th, they lost 28-23, lost to LSU, blown away by Florida State, NC State, not competitive against Clemson. They did beat Navy that year, so that 17-14 win over Navy, I'm sure most people would have put it on 84 and traded at 84 for a loss. But the Richard Bell experiment did not work out. That was a weird tenure because that was a internal promotion that most people around South Carolina at the time, and I was 6 years old, so I don't remember. But I was told that most people just considered that an interim year. He replaced Carlin because, of course, there was some politicking and stuff, as is the case, throughout the history of the program. But, Richard Bell started fast, but didn't turn out that well. Spurrier won his first game, but that was a slow start. That team in his first year got off to 0-3 start in the SEC, and he turned it around. Of course, Lou lost every game. Brad Scott, tough loss to Georgia to start with. Then he rebounded and won game 2 against Arkansas. Sparky started 1-0 against Spurrier and Duke, but guess who tied him in week 2? Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech.
Yep.
I remember that because we had season tickets that year, and that was the Virginia Tech game was a game my mom actually took me to instead of my dad. It's usually me and my dad, but we piled in the Suburban, and her and my brothers went, and I remember that being a tie because we had beaten Virginia Tech quite a bit. This was before they got on the radar, and that was a tie game in the Sparky Woods era. That's back when there were ties. So, this could be a milestone. First time in about 40 years, a new coach at Carolina's gotten off to a 2-0 start. But you know what? When you start off with Eastern Illinois and East Carolina, you probably should start 2-0 if you're in the SEC. So that's and a team like South Carolina. So that's another way to look at it as well.
Gamecocks haven't been to Greenville since 1997. That was a shutout, 26-0, the final score there. 2-1 all time at East Carolina. Again, 14-5 is the series right now in favor of the Gamecocks. Will be 15 tomorrow if they can win. The darkest time of this series took place when a lot of dark times took place for this program in the 90s. 3-5 against East Carolina, who, by the way, had a pretty good program back then, but Carolina also had a horrible program. They have won 4 straight. The win in Charlotte started that string of 4 straight. Of course, a win tomorrow would make it 5. That win in Charlotte in 2011, JC, just for historical reference here, was the most points ever scored by a Gamecock team in game 1 of their season. They scored 46 last week against Eastern Illinois. That's the 6th most points ever scored by a Gamecock football program in game 1 of their season. So a couple of tie-ins there. And East Carolina as well. Let me throw this out there before we actually get into the football game because we love history around here. 16 regular season opponents from Power 5 conferences in the last 8 years. That's how many ECU has played. Since 2013, they've won 7 of those. 7-9. The caveat, though, they've only won once since 2016. It was a good start, and that one win was September the 8th, 2018 against North Carolina, who, by the way, they have 3 straight wins over in that series. There might be a reason the Tar Heels aren't putting them back on their schedule. They have lost 6 of 7, though, in that string of Power 5 games. So hopefully the Gamecocks can make that 7 of 8. How will they do that, JC? That's the question. Tomorrow we're expected to see Kevin Harris. Beamer says last night he's full go. There's no snap count. There's no rep count. Nothing. He can play 100 snaps if he wants to. He can play 20 snaps if they want him to, need him to, whatever the case is. So we expect to see him. But do we expect to see Luke Doty? And if we do, in what capacity?
I don't have the answer to that question. I have an opinion on it. I think that Luke Doty is probably not going to be the guy. I think they're probably going to start Zeb Nolan. Call it a gut feeling, call it reading the tea leaves, call it an informed opinion, whatever you want to call it. Just don't call me an idiot if Doty walks out there, because I'm being honest and saying that's just an opinion, and opinions obviously can be wrong. So I think it's probably going to be Nolan this week. Shane's right when he says Doty is the type of quarterback you're not going to play him unless he's 100%. And if you think about Luke Doty, what they work on all offseason with him, his footwork in the passing game, not just his running ability, but his footwork, planning, throwing. That's important because when Doty's looked bad throwing the ball, watch his feet. Watch his feet next time. And that's last year's spring game. All these things everybody wants to overrate. If you want to know why, watch his feet. And so feet are very important when it comes to Luke Doty. So if his foot's not 100%, that's calls to start Zeb. But Zeb's capable of going out there. And I promise people Zeb's capable of throwing it down the field further than he did the other night. I think that was intentional. If not, the Gamecocks are going to be in some trouble, I think. Maybe not this game, but on down the road. But yeah, that's my opinion on the subject with Zeb. With Kevin Harris, too, yes, they could, if they need him to go carry it 40 times, he probably is capable of doing it. I don't think that's very realistic, though, because you have all these other backs that are playing well right now. I think Kevin will be in the rotation, but I just don't know of a scenario where Carolina's going to need him to tote it, a ton of times, considering the other backs. Now, if he's the only back that can't be bottled up, then obviously I think that's the case. You're talking about the history too, JB. I wanted to add this in. So the school record for passing yards was set in 1987.
There you go. I figured out where that was coming from.
Somebody's FaceTiming somebody.
Yes, it was something. Someone was trying to come in, but it's gone. Bye. Okay.
All right. So in 1987, 425 yards from Todd Ellis. That was the school record until Tannehill got in and played for Brad Scott and set some records then. In 1988, another record by Todd, 97-yard touchdown to Robert Brooks in a 17-0 game. Mm-hmm. That should have shown us how bad that offense under Al Grove was going to be, but heck, they beat Georgia the next week. Defense is playing well, so who knew? The 1994 game should have told us something about Wally Burnham and Brad Scott, but it didn't. That season was trunking right along and looking good, and then they beat Carolina 56-42 in that one. So that stunk a lot. I still remember the 1999 game because it's the last time I've eaten Church's chicken in my life at a tailgate. I don't really like bone-in fried chicken as it is. Please don't judge me on that. But that was tough. I was a young man then, so the Milwaukee's Best and Church's chicken did not mix at that game. Carolina lost 21-3. And then you mentioned the game that was actually Connor Shaw's first start. And they had to bring Garcia in off the bench in 2011 to win it up in Charlotte. And I remember after the game, because I was a big fan of those Charlotte games. After the game, I got so much negative feedback from people about it. I was like, this is going to be one of those things. It's going to be a Gamecock fan thing where everybody else will go to Charlotte for the opener and be fine with it, but the Gamecocks won't, which I'll never understand. But a lot of griping about the atmosphere in that one, and that may have been the biggest crowd Carolina's taken to Charlotte. Maybe that one or NC State in 2017. So those are my notes about that. And you mentioned the quarterbacks, and that's my opinion on that as well. But like, if Doty goes out there and starts, that's not going to shock me either.
Motley Rice, a law firm with international reach, but they have not and never will lose their Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights hard every day for people harmed by products like asbestos, talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, catastrophic injury. How about catastrophic injury from an auto recall like Takata airbags? MotleyRice.com to learn more. If you've been impacted by that or know somebody who has, send them there. MotleyRice.com, very proudly presenting the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Was at both those games? I've been at many games in Charlotte, as a matter of fact, some good ones and some pretty bad ones, like Virginia in the bowl game a couple of years ago. But that East Carolina game in 2011 was a lot of fun because when Steven came in there, he was a lightning rod, and that place turned upside down in a hurry. Marcus Lattimore, of course, was on that team, one of the best tailbacks to ever suit it up at Carolina. We were talking about Kevin Harris. I'm with you. I don't think that they need him tomorrow, period. I think that they will probably use him, JC. I don't think he's going to start. I think Zakondre White is once again going to start. Quick note on him. Last week, 4th most rushing yards ever in a season opener by Zakondre White, 128. The tops on that list is Deuce Staley versus Central Florida, 187 back in 1996. So it will be interesting to see what the rotation looks like, JC, though, because you're adding him back to the mix. We'll see if Rashad Amos is able to go. He apparently had a little bit of a hamstring injury. Everybody's talking about you have 4. You actually have 5 guys. And in addition to that, I'm just talking about simply as we kind of shift into matchups here from a running the football standpoint. How about Dakereon Joyner? He didn't look comfortable catching the football again under the lights last Saturday night. Maybe that changes this week, but as you mentioned on Wednesday with us, maybe getting him the football around the line of scrimmage is the ticket.
Well, I think that's where he's been at his best during his career. I don't want to rule him out, neither does my dog Red, as far as catching the ball. I think obviously there were some issues getting separation against Eastern Illinois, so you're kind of like, well, I don't know, you got to get separation at some point if you're Dakereon, and it just seems running horizontally sometimes in the route pattern. He doesn't do it, and I think it's been those little drags and stuff. And now he did it in the spring game. He did it in the practice I watched. But, to get him going, I think, Marcus Satterfield's right, the Wildcat quarterback. You got to be careful with that stuff, though. with doing the Wildcat, and you got to sort of have a feel as to when to do it. I don't know that there was much feel that went into putting him in the other night, but you're rolling that, you're rolling. So that's fine. I just, I think that's the thing. And then it's not just Wildcat quarterback guys. I think jet sweeps are really good for Decarrion to get yardage because he gets going and then he's elusive and hard to bring down. I think running the ball straight up the gut with him is good because he's got a little shake. I still think he could be a big part of this football team, but let's face facts. At slot receiver, you have to have speed and you have to have big playability and all that. And there's a guy behind him, Amarian Brown, that has all that looked pretty good the other night. So, we don't know if he's pushing to carry on or not, but in order to get more speed on the field, they may have to go in that direction and find other things for to carry on to do.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about some of this with Michael Flint. I'm actually going to have him in our next segment, former wide receiver at South Carolina, break down the route running of Decarrion Joyner and Jalen Brooks from last week, comparatively, though, to Josh Vann, who had a great week. So, JC, we saw East Carolina struggle against App State, to put it pretty bluntly here up front, both sides of the football. What does that lead you to believe the game plan may look like tomorrow afternoon for Carolina?
I think defensively, the Gamecocks are going to continue to attack. Holden Ayers is a guy, sort of like Otto Coons, who didn't play for Eastern Illinois, was supposed to be, that could hurt you with his legs. So you're going to have to contain to a certain extent. But when he gets rattled, he starts throwing it all over the place,
Yeah.
And he's not accurate with the football. And he's not necessarily a great runner. He's good, but he's not great. So, you hope that you don't gamble a lot and that he beats you with his legs. But I think you got to keep the pressure on. You have to continue to tackle well. That's something that was a little understated about the Eastern Illinois game as Gamecocks. I don't care who you're playing. If you're not fundamentally tackling well, you're going to miss tackles. And the Gamecocks, especially on the perimeter, which has been a bugaboo for this team for years, they tackled well. Cam Smith tackled well. Darius Rush tackled well. Jalen Dickerson tackled well. David Spalding tackled well.
Yeah.
They got to continue to do that because, when you got a guy like Keaton, I keep calling him Keaton Williams, but that's not it. It's
Keaton Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell, you miss him and the band's playing. I mean, he's that fast. So you got to get him on the ground.
Yeah.
So tackling well on defense. Offensively, the offensive line, and look, I have a feeling East Carolina is going to throw a lot of junk blitzes at the Gamecocks. They're going to throw a lot of things at them. So it's not just the line. It's got to be the backs and the tight ends, the H-backs, whoever's protecting, and whoever's trying to open run lanes. They have to be a little bit meaner and tougher and physical. Not that they weren't at all times last week, but that was an overmatched opponent, and they seemed to struggle at times a little bit when Eastern Illinois would send more. Well, ECU is going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you have to do is you have to make sure you stay on your blocks. And then the good news with that is if they send a bunch of people, and Marshawn Lloyd or Kevin Harris or Zaquandre White or Juju McDowell breaks contain, or Brent, it's not called contain, but breaks into the secondary, nobody's going to catch him. They went through all that the other night, and finally Zaquandre White goes straight up the middle, and nobody is within 10 yards of him. And that's why they call that a gambling defense. The other thing they have to do, I think, is complete some passes down the field and back them off. If you can't do that, everybody on the schedule is going to play you the same way. And a lot of people complained last week. And there's a crew out there that's waiting to blame Zeb Nolan, Luke Doty, and Marcus Satterfield for any time something bad goes happen this year. So you just wait. Somebody gets hurt or somebody loses a shoe, they're going to blame them for it. So they're just waiting for it. But I tend to believe, guys, that it was by design. I think if you're winning like that and, they're not really stopping you and you're stopping them, why put anything on film? Well, you should probably let East Carolina think you're just going to throw dink and dunks, or Georgia think that. And then you burn them and you get a cheap score or an expensive score. I'm not going to call those cheap because they haven't been happening yet.
RJ Roderick's expected to be back tomorrow as well from suspension. JC, quickly on him, what type of impact do you expect him to have?
I think that if Foster or Dickerson's not playing well, which they both played well last week, he will, and he'll certainly play. They're gonna rotate RJ in. I think given his struggles in the passing game last year, if you're East Carolina's offensive coordinator, thinks Donnie Kirkpatrick, who was at South Carolina under Sparky Woods,
yep.
I'm dialing something up and going after him until he can stop it. Now, RJ's improved over last year as far as practice and stuff like that goes. So, heck, maybe you pick on him at your own risk, when it comes to that. But certainly I think it helps to have another safety back there who's experienced. He's been through the wars. He had a great offseason. The new staff loves him. They think he's a warrior type mentality. You've seen the NFL draft projections for RJ. So,
yeah.
If people out there think that, it's time for him to go play and do it. And, I've always thought since he was a freshman, he had a chance to be really, really good. He just, like a lot of guys in this program last couple of years, individually, you just didn't see the big jump like you thought you would, or there was something like coverage or like fundamental tackling where he didn't wrap up. He went for the kill shot in the run game and stuff with him. And so hopefully, like the rest of the team, they've cleaned that up. I mean, you look at Cam Smith last week. Good gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, he looks like
Brad Johnson.
It's like Sheldon Brown out there tackling people and stuff. So I was like, wow.
And not in this. I mentioned Brad Johnson not because he's a defensive back, but he just looked different. They look confident, and their bodies look different. And I'm anxious to see RJ from that standpoint. JC, what he had really gotten beefed up and big, and maybe that contributed to some of his problems as time went on. Maybe his body's changed a little bit.
Yeah, and how about Jalen Dickerson playing 41 snaps too?
No kidding.
My goodness. But RJ could look different this weekend. I think a lot of people would really like that. And there were three guys that stood out to me like that on actually three on defense. Cam Smith was one. Obviously, Jalen Dickerson playing 41 snaps. Brad Johnson, as you mentioned. And then flipping it to offense, Josh Vann kind of was the same way. And those are all guys,
no question,
everybody's been high on since the day they stepped foot on campus. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out. So good to see it work out. The competition gets a little stiffer this weekend, and then much stiffer the following weekend. And then another good team comes in. Yeah, there's no the easy game is over, folks. The easy game's over, folks, because Troy and East Carolina are a lot better than Eastern Illinois, and they may be better than Vanderbilt. I think.
I think they are better than Vanderbilt.
Right now, you can say that. We'll see what happens to the mighty Commodores out in Fort Collins, Colorado, against the Swamp Donkey this weekend.
Yeah, and regardless of all those players we mentioned, it is not lost on us, regardless of what you think about Pro Football Focus, that PFF did have the both highest-ranked defensive linemen in the country this week per ratings. Yeah, they're both Gamecocks. Jordan Birch, JJ Enigbare. The Pirates are going to find out about that tomorrow in 50,000-seat Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. Speaking of Colorado State and Vanderbilt, JC, we're going to spend the final 4 minutes here, and we're going to have to motor through this, picking our games, including South Carolina and East Carolina. Darren and I will hold off till the end of this program to make that pick, but we will certainly get yours in just a moment. Vandy, Colorado State. Vandy is, let's say what it is. Yeah, they're bad, and they got to go to a higher altitude tomorrow night. They're 7-point dogs. Who wins?
I'm going to say Vanderbilt pulls it off because sometimes there's darkness before the dawn, and I think Steve Adazio was an awful hire at Colorado State. They got waxed by 25. I'm going with the Doors, just so people will stop saying that they're terrible, and then they'll probably not win another game all year.
I'm with you, man. I really am. I'm going with Vanderbilt to go out to Colorado State and win that game. We might be drunk already, too, but that's right.
I think y'all are. I'm going with Colorado State to win this game. The elevation is something that I take seriously in this game.
Your ties to Wyoming have proven that over time. So yes,
I'm going to go with the Rams here. The Holy War, BYU and Utah. Utah 7-point favorites on the road, 10-15 ESPN.
I have an ex-girlfriend that's a Utah fan. We had a bad breakup back in the middle part of the last decade. I'm going with the Cougars in the Holy War, also because it's in Provo. So I'm gonna go with them 23-20.
Okay.
I'm going Utah here. I'm taking the favorite on the road.
I hate you.
BYU just got accepted to the Big 12. In honor of that, they will win. I think they beat Utah, 21st ranked Utah, tomorrow night. Staying out west, Southern Cal, the other USC, and Stanford late tomorrow night, 10:30, on Fox. The Trojans 17-point favorites.
Two Davids are seeing an illustrious coaching career come to a close. David Shaw is one of them. David Cutcliffe at Duke is the other. Southern Cal rolls 34-7.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've got a couple more points for Stanford, but big. Yes,
absolutely.
20 big.
I'm with both of you. Big Southern Cal. How about A&M? They're 17-point favorites on the road at Colorado. Here's that elevation thing, but A&M's pretty good. 3:30 on Fox tomorrow.
Yeah, and everybody's making a big deal out of Kent State being close to him at half. I actually think Kent State coach Sean Lewis should have been the Illinois coach because he's good, and Kent State's a ridiculously tough job. You can ask Lou Holtz. You can ask Nick Saban. That's their alma mater. So I think they're overestimated that. But A&M too, I don't expect it just to be a blowout. I think like 31-17-ish. Colorado could cover, I do think.
I'm right there. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been in sync with JC as much as I am here because I'm thinking 14. I'm thinking they don't cover but win the game.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think A&M wins, but they are under that 17. By the way, the over-under in that game, only 50. So we'll see. All right. God bless America. Air Force and Navy at 3:30 on CBS tomorrow from Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium up there in Annapolis. I don't want either one to win the game. I want both of them to be winners. They'll always be winners in my book, but somebody's going to be in favor on the scoreboard at the Air Force Academy. 6-point favorites on the road. By the way, the over-under, 40. Who wins?
Well, Nate, this is not Navy's best team. I got suckered into taking them last week as a heavy underdog, so I'm not going to do it this week. I'm going to go with the Falcons of the Air Force Academy to win the game and cover probably about 10 points. I'm tempted to take the over in that one, but it seems maybe like a sucker bet.
Okay, all is back with the world because now our paths have deviated greatly. I like Navy and the under in this one.
That's because you're such a big Maryland homer. you like the Expos, Penn State, that area. You can't. But no, Annapolis is beautiful this time of year. Though. That'd be a great game to go see.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with JC on this one. I think Air Force wins it. Close 3-point game, but they win it. Iowa State, first ever ranked matchup here. Everybody's there. Josh Pate is there. College Game Day is there. 10-9 matchup tomorrow at 4:30 on ABC from Jack Trice Stadium in Ames.
Everybody wants to, call Iowa State. I think to win, they're like the predetermined Cinderella this year. I think a lot of people think Iowa's boring because Kirk Ferentz has been there 147 years. But I thought Iowa took it to Indiana. I don't know how good Indiana's going to be this year, but really took it to them last week. I think they've got a good team too. I'm going to say the Hawkeyes break the hearts of the Cyclones with 3 seconds to go on a late field goal. And Josh Pate's playoff pick. And credit him. He's been staying with them for a year. Josh has had Iowa State this year circled for about a year and a half. So credit him for going out there. Credit him for sticking with it. But unfortunately, I think the Hawkeyes are going to stick a knife in the back of the Cyclones late in Ames this weekend.
I don't like to reference last year often from a large statistical grouping because it makes no sense. But Iowa, in their last 7 games, including last week, their last 6 games last year, they won them all by a combined score of 214-83 and then outscored Indiana 34-6. Iowa's got something. Iowa is being overlooked as a top 10 team, and they go on the road and win.
And keep in mind, Iowa State's defense is constructed to slow Big 12 offenses. Iowa is a completely different story, like what they're going to face this weekend. I formation, power, big offensive line. It's different, so I'm curious to see how the Cyclones defense stacks up.
You're both wrong. Matt Campbell gets up for big games, and he'll get the Cyclones up this weekend, and Iowa State will win it at home, and the goalpost will come down, and all will be right in beautiful Ames, Iowa. How about real quick here, because we got to get moving, Oregon and Ohio State. I'm just going to go 2 touchdowns, Ohio State.
Yeah, Oregon could not cover this game. I'm curious to see Oregon's offensive line against Ohio State's defense because, those are 2 groups that have gotten a lot of hype. But in Columbus, big noon kickoff, I'll have to go with the Buckeyes by around 2 touchdowns. That's my pick, unfortunately, for the Pac-12.
Yeah, Buckeyes win. I don't know what that spread's going to be, but I do have the over in the game.
Is Gus Johnson calling the game?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh! He's like Todd. Let's have Todd Ellis and Gus Johnson call a game, like take turns. Oh.
All right, into this. On the Rocky Top, Tennessee, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 3-point favorites noon tomorrow on ESPN, JC.
Everybody's picking Pittsburgh, man. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
I'm with you.
I think and look, I'm not saying this says Tennessee is good.
I think it's an ugly game.
Because I don't think Tennessee's good. But I do think they're going to find a way to pull it out like 26-24.
Yeah, I think it's an ugly game. I think Tennessee wins somehow, some way. Something stupid happens, they win the game.
I debated doing that because everyone's talking about Pitt. But let's stick with the whole Maryland-Pennsylvania thing and go Pitt.
Pitt.
But you're a Penn State fan.
Pitt.
Yeah, I know.
Pick for Pitt. How do you pick Pitt?
Because they're not a rival.
You've got a Tennessee shirt on today, too.
Yeah,
it's that orange. It's the Tennessee color. Or maybe Texas. I don't know.
All right, how about NC State and Mississippi State, 7 o'clock on ESPN2 from Davis Wade.
Kind of the reverse. Everybody's picking NC State based on last week's result. Don't underestimate the Pirate against Dave Dorn. I would be an intellectually dishonest fool if I didn't pick Mississippi State in this one. 38-22.
NC State. The ACC is going to win both those games.
They're going to go 2-0 against –
yeah, I got NC State winning this game too. It's something strange with Mississippi State right now. I think NC State goes in there and somehow pulls it off. But go Dogs! I hope they win it. Missouri and Kentucky. This is an important one in the East, as we all know. The Wildcats 5.5-point favorites at home. Couple of quarterbacks everybody's interested in seeing. I'll be watching 7:30 tomorrow night on the SEC Network. Darren, we'll lead off with you since the Penn State transfer leads Kentucky's football program.
And that is the only thing that put me over the top. I won't touch this game personally. It was the hardest game on this whole sheet for me to circle one of the teams, but I did circle Kentucky.
Look, man, this is the one I feel least good about. I'm going with Missouri. Mark Stoops even said this week, Drinkwitz out-coached him last week. I think he'll out-coach him again this year. And Missouri will win and become the darlings outside of Georgia and Florida in the East, and then they'll fall on their face later, and, lots of things will happen. But I just, fool's gold. Kentucky beat a bad team, and then Missouri beat a team was without the Swamp Donkey, but who's supposed to be pretty good this year as far as their level goes. So, I think those scores were misleading last week. Connor Bezelak, good player. I think he'll take care of it for the Missouri Tigers. And I feel like an idiot.
I'm going with Kentucky. With Kentucky.
I don't blame you. That's probably what I would do too if I were, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not. I won't consider touching this game in actual, picks.
No. Yeah. All right. Texas, Arkansas. Do the Hogs have enough, JC, to pull off a stunner at Razorback Stadium tomorrow night on ESPN?
Yeah. See, these are the type games that Texas traditionally has gotten in trouble with, but they got a new coach, Sarkisian, so we'll see. I know Arkansas is struggling at the half. I don't care about that. Last week you got Rice, and then Texas is coming in. Obviously, their fans have been pointing to this game. I think it'll be a close one, but I think Texas wins and breaks the heart of the Hogs 34-31. But you're going to see some really good play calls drawn up by Sark and Kendall Browse on Saturday night.
I think it's close early because this means the world to Arkansas with Texas coming in there. But I do think Texas wins and wins comfortably, and I'm leaning on taking Texas in the points, but I haven't pulled that trigger yet.
I agree with both of you. I think Arkansas plays great, and then Texas pulls away and wins the game. Darren and I will hold off on this pick, JC, but we're going to let you run on this note. finally, of course, South Carolina and East Carolina tomorrow in Greenville.
I've got the Gamecocks winning 24-16. I could see a scenario where it's bigger than that. I do expect the Gamecocks to win the game. I think there's a lot of unwarranted concern. However, as Gamecock fans, we all been there before. So I understand the hesitation, but I think the Gamecocks went 24-16, and, it won't be, a game where you got to bite on your nails at the end, though it will be close and competitive.
1:45 on this Friday afternoon. On that note, we'll let you run. An important update from Hale McGranahan on a wide receiver target for South Carolina is available at thebigspur.com. I would suggest, if you're not a member, become one so you can read about that and the newest Gamecocks commitment yesterday that landed in the lap of Shane Beamer. Thank you so much, JC. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you here next Wednesday.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
There you go, JC Shurburtt with thebigspur.com. Time for our final timeout. When we return, Michael Flint, it might take us a shade over 2 o'clock this afternoon, but that's okay. He'll take a look at the offensive and defensive matchups in this game, and we'll pick the final 3 games on our schedule. That includes Citadel and Charleston Southern, and, of course, JB and Darren's pick in the Gamecocks Pirates matchup right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit MotleyRice.com for more. MotleyRice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at StokesVW.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at WandoPower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
And what you're about to see is a spectacle unto itself. Let's enjoy.
On the South Carolina Fairgrounds, a stampede this morning. Beautiful blue skies, but the forecast tonight is for a blackout.
The crowd? They're about to go crazy, by the way. 80,000 people. They've sold this place out for the last 6 years in a row.
It's a complete sellout. A crowd tonight of over 85,000 strong, ready to explode, just as they do each time their fighting Gamecocks are introduced.
This crowd, the atmosphere that's going to be in that stadium, South Carolina needs to hold on to that as long as they can.
And so this frenzied crowd ready for the kickoff. And the rain breaks out in Columbia.
This is Patrick Davis, and you're tuned into the Gamecock Preview Show, brought to you by Motley Rice and served by My Whiskey Jam Whiskey. Go Cox.
From the front pew of a wooden white church, a courthouse clock.
Final segment of the week, the Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice right here on JB and Goldwater and served by Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam. This guy's had that before and lots of it. Michael Flint, former wide receiver at South Carolina, joins us to break down the game and give our final predictions as we head into another college football weekend. Hey, Mike.
I said, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Oh, yeah, you can hear it in his voice. He's already dipping into the Whiskey Jam, baby. Blackberry. All right now.
It's Friday. It's Friday.
That's right. Wake up and sip on it. I hear you. All right, Mike, let's get into Carolina's offense. We might run a shade past 2 o'clock as long as producer Darren here will allow that. I think he's okay with it. It sounds like that's a big thumbs up. All right, let's start with the Gamecocks offense, and I want to start with the wide receivers because you and I have talked about this not on the show throughout the week, and we just mentioned it with JC a little while ago. Last week it was mixed results. Josh Vann looked like a different kid. Looked really good. Dakereon Joyner looked a little uncomfortable. And per our conversation on the phone not too long ago, Mike, Jalen Brooks might need to crisp it up and clean it up a little bit out there in route running. Those are the 3 starters right now for Carolina out wide. So tell us what you saw and how you take that into this week's game against East Carolina.
Yeah, I've always been high on Josh Vann and his abilities. He's shown flashes of being a really good player. With the ball in his hands. I've seen over the course of the last couple of years where, a couple of times he's made a catch and just the explosiveness of his first step and getting to, getting up to, I say full speed, but, being able to explode out of that catch with his first step is very impressive, and to be able to separate from guys. And he's shown flashes of it. And I think it's taken a coach to really, get that out of them. And, I don't know what the situations were prior to this with Coach Stepp coming in, but I think it really just took bringing something out of him to really have him develop and grow as a player and just kind of, and also mature. But what I've seen from him has been really good. It's been impressive. He looks like he wants to be out there and has that kind of refueled fire and passion for the game. And so, which has been great to see. But, I know we've, with Jalen Brooks, I think, we were talking, I thought, going back and watching that first deep ball again, I don't think that was as much on the quarterback as it was on Jalen Brooks. And looking at it, he's running that deep post route. And as he turns to look for the ball, he flattens his route out more towards the sideline. And then you can see as he locates the ball and looks up, then he starts getting back up the field towards the end zone. And so it was more of a bad route than it was a bad throw. It was actually a phenomenal throw by Zeb Nolan, but it's just cleaning up the little things. Those are the little things that, that can be the turning point in a game. I mean, I think if we hit that first big throw, that's huge. I mean, it's a confidence boost for everybody, for the quarterback, it's a confidence boost for Brooks, because I think that's really what he needs. And for him, I think it's just getting more comfortable in game-like situations and the game-like atmospheres, and, transferring what happens in practice to games, and it is a lot of it is about what you do Monday through Friday. But if you can't convert it to Saturday, then it's you gotta look somewhere. You gotta look somewhere else. There's some guys out there that don't practice well. They're just gamers, and so it really just depends on the coaches understanding their players. But I think Dakereon Joyner, he needs to get that confidence. I think him being able to get the ball in his hands and drops. I think when a receiver drops the ball early on, it's kind of a mental thing where you think about it too much rather than just reacting. And I think that's kind of played a part into it. But, I think those guys have a long way to go. I think looking at it, seeing what the personnel grouping we came out in, with that 12 personnel group with 1 running back, 2 tight ends, you can see why we're utilizing a lot of those sets. But I think those guys, they got a long way to go, but I think they've come a long way as well, especially Josh Vann. And I think it's just a lot about confidence and getting that experience. I think once Dakereon can get in there and kind of start making plays and getting used to having the ball in his hand, not as a quarterback, but as a receiver, and being able to make those tough catches, it just, the confidence goes up and the experience just helps. And like I said, 12 personnel with Jaheim Bell starting, I don't know what you consider him, if it's a wide receiver or a tight end or a tailback or a fullback. So it's kind of tough to call out a personnel grouping with that guy because he's such a phenomenal athlete and really could play anywhere.
Chris Doran called the game last night on the SEC network. He said this morning on the SEC morning show with Peter Burns that South Carolina's personnel from a weapons standpoint on the offensive side is really good, and it's really surprising. And he thinks that if the quarterback situation can work itself out, that they're going to beat some people. And, those are his words, not mine. Chris Doran's a pretty good one, Mike. So as we kind of lump Zeb Nolan into this, I'm kind of leaning towards the fact he's probably going to get the start tomorrow. And if Luke Doty ends up playing, then he ends up playing. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But East Carolina is a multiple look type defense. They're going to send a lot of guys. They're going to flip and stunt and do all these crazy things up there. They're going to try to cause some type of confusion for the Gamecocks offensive line, who last week it was kind of a tale of two halves. They were so-so in the first half, much better in the second half, and they've taken it pretty personal this week from what I understand in practice. So knowing that about ECU's defense and how they're going to try to send pressure from a bunch of different angles, Zeb Nolan, maybe not the most mobile guy, an offensive line who played subpar comparatively to their standards. How do you see this matchup, defense Pirates versus offense Gamecocks?
Yeah, I think, the first game of the year is always tough. You got game day jitters and everything else, and sometimes you come out a little too fired up or whatever. But I think, with what Eastern Illinois did is, they stacked the box, and they were wanting to force us to throw the ball. And, I think we missed a couple of throws early that, could have changed the course of everything. But, I thought, we, like you did say, a tale of two halves. And I think East Carolina is going to stack the box on us more so than, we'll do that a good bit, just like Eastern Illinois, and really force us to throw the ball. I'm with you. I think, if I had to take a pick of who I think is going to start the game, I think it is going to be Zeb Nolan again. Just from an experience standpoint, playing on the road, Luke hasn't really been practicing for a little while in conditioning, stamina, game day atmosphere, everything. I really think you'll see Zeb Nolan start, but I think just being able to handle from the mental standpoint of him being able to get us in the right play and in the right call, because I think you are going to see a lot, stack the box, but also a lot of movement pre-snap from those guys and bringing pressure and trying to, force us to throw in the football and force us into a lot of second and long, third and long situations. And I think, from an offensive standpoint, I think if we can have success on first down and, and get to that second and mid range, second and 5, second and short, I think we can really change the course of what East Carolina plans to do against us. So I think a lot of what happens offensively for us is the type of success we have on first down, especially with, the quarterback situation and what East Carolina is going to try to do and try to force us to run the ball and, want to put us in a lot of second and long situations where they can kind of dictate what they do because they know more of what South Carolina is going to have to do offensively to try to get first down. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I hope the offensive line is taking that personally because there was a lot of hype surrounding them, coming into the season. Those guys, like you said, tale of two halves. I think they came out in the second half and played really well. But, also being able to see film on East Carolina this week and see what they do versus not really seeing a lot of film from Eastern Illinois. So, a lot of times these first halves of these games are a little bit tough, opening the year up. But I think being able to watch film, being able to see East Carolina's front, what they do, can really help them.
1:59. We only have a minute left in the show, but here's the good news. Darren and I can do whatever we want to do. So we're going to extend this a few minutes to let Michael kind of work you through what we hope to see maybe tomorrow for South Carolina. The bus, as they're calling him, we all know Jerome Bettis is the real bus, but the college bus in Columbia is Kevin Ayers, and he is full go. He's ready to go tomorrow. Mike, what does that mean to you, and how do you think he is implemented into this offensive system under Marcus Satterfield with Marshawn Lloyd getting his feet wet last week and starting to look better and better as the game went on. And then, of course, headlined by Zaquandre White, who had the 4th most rushing yards ever in a Gamecock opener, 128, combined with his 39 receiving yards, 167 total yards in the ball game last week. So how do you think Kevin Harris, who led the league in rushing last year in the regular season, fits into this mix coming off of injury?
Yeah, I think he fits it. I think you'll see more of a running back by committee type of situation, especially early on, with him not going through much of preseason camp at all. From a conditioning standpoint, and not just throwing him out there and expecting him to carry the ball 20 times. I don't know if you'll see that much at all this year. Barring, health of everybody else. I think Zaquandre White has earned the right to start. He's earned it. He's played really well. I think Kevin Harris, from a, off-season standpoint, I'm not sure exactly what kind of off-season he had. But I think from what Zaquandre White has done, he's been there every day. Like what Coach Satterfield says, you got to be there. You got to show up. You got to be able to show up, play. You got to be available. And he's been there every day. So I think, you'll see him, Zaquandre White, start, but I think you'll see more of a by committee approach. I think you'll see Marshawn Lloyd just as much as you see Kevin Harris. And I think you'll see all three of those guys, kind of share the load. But, I think, White will be used a little bit more in a dynamic aspect of out the backfield, catching passes. But, I think Marshawn Lloyd did a good job last week. I think it was really good for him to get his feet wet. I think he missed a couple of cuts upfield. He tried to outflank the defense and, got tackled for a short game. But I think if he sticks his foot in the ground and tries to get upfield and, realizing you're not going to be able to run, outflank everybody in this league. And I think he did a really good job throughout the course of the game, getting comfortable. But, I think adding Kevin Harris is absolutely huge because of the experience he has being the leading rusher in the SEC last year. But, he took on a huge workload, and it takes a toll on your body a little bit. And so I think being able to have those other two guys is huge, and you don't necessarily have to give him the ball 20 to 25 times a game and keep him fresh. I know everybody would love to be the leading rusher in the SEC and be the guy, but it's better to have a couple of guys or a handful of guys than just one, because when you lose one, you see what happens. And, so I think we're in a really, really good place in that running back room. And I think, the respect those guys have for each other is huge, and being able to share that workload and support each other.
Let me ask you this way, Mike. Kevin Harris comes into the game. I don't think he's going to get the start. I think White will. And you run him into the game somewhere in the first couple of series, and as soon as number 20 comes trotting on the field, across the way there, Mike Houston and the East Carolina staff look and say, oh, gosh, okay, here comes Kevin Harris. It's time. He's going to get the football. Everybody, circle 20. It's coming to him. And then you play action with Kevin Harris and throw it downfield. Is that like the perfect opportunity? This guy hasn't played yet. Everybody knows when he comes in the game, he's going to get the rock, and everybody knows what he can do with it. You see him trot on the field, and it's like the perfect opportunity for Zeb Nolan or Luke Doty, whoever's a quarterback, to play action and chuck that sucker downfield somewhere.
Yeah, I think it is. And it may not necessarily have to be the first play. It could be a down and distance type situation, but it's almost could play into it as fact as well as, give them a couple of carries, try to let them get comfortable, have a little success, and then bust it with a play action downfield, and, really get those guys biting on the run, and then boom, take your shot. But, I think there's a lot of different ways it could play out, to be honest. I like the way the offense flowed in that first game. I like the formations, the multiple looks. I think Coach Satterfield did a really good job of showing, multiple different type of formations, multiple looks, the personnel groupings, moving Jaheim Bell all over the place, having him in the backfield, lined up out wide, everything. I think it gives teams a lot to have to prepare for, which is good. The more you throw at them, the less time they get to spend during the week preparing for it. And I think, it was very honorary for us to show out on special teams as well. I got to throw that in there too with, the old water bucket or whatever that was. And then the block punt. I mean, it's so fitting for that to be a part of Shane Beamer's, first game as a head coach, to have a 2-point conversion as well as a blocked punt, which was huge. But, like I said, that gives that gives the opposing team more and more to have to prepare for during the course of the week, where you don't get to spend as much time on all of those things.
Absolutely. And there's a game this week that's a 2-point spread, which is this one. Special teams could be huge for South Carolina. It could be the leg of Parker White. It could be a fingertip on a punt somewhere that changes this sucker for the Gamecocks if that's able to happen. All right, real quick, Mike, couple of keys to the game, one on offense and one on defense. The defensive line is expected to have a pretty good matchup in this one against a young and struggling, we'll call it that, offensive line for East Carolina. When you have that, when you have guys who it appears that they will be overmatched against the Gamecocks front four or whomever's up there, how does an offense adjust to try to accommodate for that? So if you could kind of lump that answer into your keys to the game here for the Gamecocks to be able to pull out a win.
Yeah, I think for the offense, it's kind of, if East Carolina is going to stack the box and try to sell out and make us throw the ball, make them pay with some deep balls and hitting them early downfield and getting those receivers comfortable and getting some big chunk plays to kind of make that defense loosen up, make that East Carolina defense loosen up. I think defensively, continuing to play really well up front, having our front four guys get pressure on the quarterback and being able to collapse the pocket. I think that's the strength of this defense. And I think, linebacker, I know we don't have a lot of depth, but, we need those guys to eat up those blocks and be able to pressure the quarterback and collapse the pocket for this defense to have a lot of success. So I think that plays into it. As always, turnovers, not being able to turn the ball over. I think, that's always an important thing. But, the offensive line really stepping up and playing well and establishing, dominance up front and winning the battle in the trenches and pushing those defensive linemen off the ball and getting good push to be able to run the football and kind of have those guys, have East Carolina loosen up that defense and be able to throw the ball up and down the field. I'd love, would love to see that. Like to see him cut Zeb Nolan loose a little bit. I think what he did last week, like I said, just play within yourself. Don't try to be a hero. Don't do too much. Stay kind of within your, understand your limitations and play within them. And that's exactly what he did. He played a heck of a game. Only had 128 yards, but he did what he was asked to do, and he didn't put the ball in jeopardy. Didn't turn the ball over and didn't make bonehead plays and didn't put us in bad situations and didn't put the defense in bad situations and, really played a phenomenal game. And I think him, building on that with that experience, because, it takes a little while to get back into it. He's only doing it for 3 weeks after being off of it for months. And so just getting him more comfortable into the rhythm of the game, getting him some quick throws early to continue building that confidence and get into a rhythm.
If Luke Doty does play, Mike, in what capacity do you envision that?
There's no telling. I think, if he's fully healthy at 100%, could possibly start. Just, haven't really seen the dynamic in practice and really heard, how the quarterback battle went, a true kind of, a vision or, kind of seeing what really happened. I think if Luke Doty is 100% healthy, I think he's, I think he might be the guy that starts, or it could be, they start Zeb Nolan and let him get a couple of series and see how it goes, and then kind of bring in Luke Doty in a different role.
Yeah.
More so in kind of a role they used Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, being able to use his athleticism, run the football, some quarterback draws, maybe some like RPO type looks, maybe, some zone reads and things of that nature to, get him in there and get comfortable, really throw a different dynamic, into the game. So it's going to be interesting to see if he, if he's healthy enough to play and if they do choose to run him out there. It's just, I think it's really an unknown. And I think that's a great job by Shane Beamer to really not name a starter, because it's a completely different type of player that East Carolina has to prepare for. And so now this week they're having to prepare for two completely different types of quarterbacks. And, having a starter named early on in the week, it still gives East Carolina, they know who's going to start. They know what to prepare for. Where now they really got to prepare for two completely different styles of, not just quarterback, but offense.
And to your point there, I know it seems that there's some gamesmanship in that, but when you have a quarterback who's been injured like Luke Doty, you can hide behind that a little bit if you're Shane Beamer and the staff in Columbia, and they've certainly done so. Mike Houston and East Carolina have had to prepare for both quarterbacks. I predict we will see, actually, both quarterbacks tomorrow, Michael, and I agree with you. I think Zeb Nolan will probably start, but, if Shane Beamer needs to play, quote, hero, maybe similar to the Steven Garcia, Connor Shaw situation up in Charlotte against ECU back in 2011, although hopefully Zeb Nolan is not off to the start that Connor Shaw was in that game, because it was pretty ugly for what turned out to be the Gamecocks' all-time wins leader at QB. All right, Mike, before we let you run here, we're going to make a couple of final picks. I'm going to motor through these with you, and then we will pick a couple together here at the end. Quickly, Texas, Arkansas, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Do the Razorbacks have enough to pull it off?
Yeah, I'm going Arkansas. I think Arkansas really did a good job Pittman building the program. I like Arkansas in that game.
Whoa! All right, Darren and myself already took Texas. Michael's going with the Hogs. Woo! Pig is what they say. All right, how about Mississippi State and North Carolina State in Starkville?
That's going to be a heck of a game. That's almost a toss-up for me from what Mississippi State did last week. But I think those first games are always tough to judge and some opponents on. I'm going to go Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. So Michael and JC on state. Darren and I are on the other state from the ACC. Michael, by the way, 3-2 last week in his 5 picks. JC 5-3. Darren 13-6. Myself 14-5. We have a lot of games that we're picking this week. Mike, how about App State and Miami? Darren and I haven't picked this one yet. We will with you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, ESPNU.
That's going to be a good game, and that's an extremely tough game to pick. I think the X factor in that game, I think, will be De'Aaron King. I think he's a good quarterback, but I think what he can do with his legs, especially, is going to be the difference maker in that game. I think Miami wins it, but I think it's going to be a really good game.
I'm right there with Flint. I mean, I've gone back and forth on our pick sheet that I have in front of me, circling both of them and crossing them out. I am on Miami now and settled on it. I don't think they win by 9, but I do think they win the game.
I'm with both of you. I think that Miami wins it. I think it ends up being right around 9, something like 30-21 or something like that. I think Miami will be right on it. Push. You know how those Miami boys are. They don't want anybody to – somebody down there is betting on them. They're going to get to that 9. All right, Missouri and Kentucky, Michael. Darren and I have both already picked the Wildcats. JC took Missouri on the road. Kentucky 5.5-point favorites at home at Kroger Field.
Yeah, this is another tough one. I think with what Kentucky's building down there with the quarterback situation and being a lot more dynamic on offense and the offensive line they have, I'm going to go with Kentucky.
And Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky wins. I hope Kentucky wins. I need Kentucky to win, not Missouri. Deal with them down the road, but Gamecocks will get the Wildcats here in a couple of weeks. All right here at home, 2 o'clock ESPN Plus tomorrow. If you're going to watch it, if you're going, it's at Johnson Haygood. It's the crosstown rivalry, Charleston Southern and the Citadel. Mike, who you got?
Oh, this is an extremely tough one to call right here. Both got good programs. I think I'm gonna go with Charleston Southern on this one.
Ooh, all right.
No way I'm picking against the Citadel, where I have ties to for a long time doing some of their games. No shot. I am picking against the Citadel against Charleston Southern. None.
Charleston Southern, I think, is building a pretty darn good program under Autry Denson. They just need more money. They got to continue to build facilities out there, and Jeff Barber's doing everything he can. But the Citadel's been playing a lot of football over the last few months, and CSU, this is their first game of the fall. Citadel wins over Charleston Southern down at Johnson Haygood. And finally, JC took the Gamecocks earlier. Carolina now 2-point favorites against East Carolina tomorrow on ESPN2. You can listen to it anywhere in the world on the Gamecocks app. Of course, if you're in Columbia, you'll be listening to it on 107.5 The Game if that's what you choose to do. Darren, we'll start with you. Does Carolina have enough juice in the tank to head up there and take care of business against the Pirates?
They're going to win. It's going to be an ugly game. It's going to at times be tough to watch. I think the Gamecocks will be forced, if they don't start Luke Doty, I think they'll be forced at some point to put him in. The question is, how much can he do? I think the ECU defense will impress both of you. I think it will surprise Gamecock fans. I think this is a ugly, low-scoring game. I personally have taken the under, and I think it's in the 20 to 17, 13, something like that.
Mike?
Yeah, Darren, really good points. I think with that ECU defense and the confusion it could cause, I'm looking at us to try and break out of that, a lot of that chaos and complexity early. I like the Gamecocks, and I like it by a whole lot more than 2. I think Carolina. I'm thinking more like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, this is a tricky one for South Carolina. It could go south in a hurry if you have a bad day up there. Mike, you mentioned turnovers earlier. I think JC also mentioned that as well. If you get a couple of those and ECU is able to pick it up and score, it could get bad. I actually have ECU covering. I think that ECU will cover the field tomorrow night after Carolina beats them by at least 10 points at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. With whatever tarp they put out there on the field, I don't care what it is. They will cover it as losers, and the Gamecocks will win, and they will be 2-0, and Shane Beamer will be 2-0 as a new head coach, only the 4th head coach in 75 years to do that, the first since Richard Bell in 1982. So ECU covers their football field with a tarp after a loss. Gamecocks win by at least 10 on the road, and then they come home and get ready for Georgia. How about that?
I like it.
And that, my friends, is how you wrap a preview show. Michael, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. I'll see you tomorrow because I'm going to be right down the street from you. So we'll fuss and discuss and have a drink or 7.
All right. Sounds good, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
Michael Flint, former wide receiver at South Carolina. Gamecocks win tomorrow against East Carolina. And then the Dogs, they'll be barking. And we'll look at that one next week right here on the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thanks to Raphael Esparza in hour number 1, JC Shurburtt, Michael Flint here in hour 2. Thanks to Darren as always. We're 15 minutes past due, but that's all right. We'll try to keep it between the lines next week. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. Braves 3.5 up. Something to watch there in baseball, certainly. And another great weekend of college football. The JB and Goldwater Show returns Monday at noon. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. And we'll see you then.